What's up, you guys? We are back. We are back with The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. Trying to get that in there. This is my first book by them. They're two women authors. They work together, and yeah, this is the first book I've read by them, and it was okay. I give it a 3.5. There are a few things that I didn't like about it, so I will get into that more. But I think 3.5 is still a solid rating. I definitely didn't majorly dislike it, and there were a lot of things that I did like about it, so I'm going to get into that with you guys here. So just to say what this book was about, long story short, it's kind of like a weird setup, but basically there was a wedding, and at the wedding, everyone got sick from the seafood buffet at the reception. So everyone got sick except for two people, and the two people just so happened to be the maid of honor and the best man. And so everyone got sick, and now the bride and the groom couldn't go on the honeymoon. And the honeymoon just so happened to be non-transferable, non-refundable, and they couldn't do anything with it unless they had to go, or else it would just disappear. They would lose it. So the bride, her name is Amy, she said to her maid of honor, which just so happens to be her twin sister, Olive, she said to Olive, "You have to go on this trip, otherwise I'm going to lose it, and somebody has to use it because this would just be a shame if the whole thing went to waste." And the other person who ends up also going on the honeymoon just so happens to be the best man, who's the groom's brother. And so the groom's name is Dane, and the best man's name is Ethan. So Ethan and Olive go on this honeymoon together. And also, little known secret, Ethan and Olive do not like each other at all. They do not vibe. They've known each other for a few years, ever since the bride and groom met, and they just do not get along for different reasons that become apparent in the book. But they end up on this honeymoon together, and it kind of turns into this fake dating trope because they kind of have to act like the bride and groom. They have to take their names and their roles to an extent, and so that's kind of exciting. And that's pretty much the setup of this book. I don't want to say too much more about the plot, but that's pretty much what we're given. And it's really cool because they're on this trip, and they get to, it's all inclusive, so they get to go do all these cool things, like paintballing and going on tours, I think. So anyway, it's a lot of fun, and there's tension and chemistry and bickering and banter and running into people. So anyway, it's pretty cool setup, and definitely the hook was in the book. I was about it, so I would say that I do recommend it. There are a few things that I don't love about it. I'll also say, I don't think this is too much of a spoiler, this book does not have a ton of spice, so if you're looking for a book that's not extremely sex and spicy and dirty, whatever people feel that spice is, this is a pretty PG, I would say, for at least for a book. There's not a bunch that goes on. Anything that they do have sex, but anytime that happens, it's a build up to it, and then just kind of a fade to black type scene. So you don't see, you don't learn, they don't say it. I guess you could say. But anyway, the book is good. A few things I didn't love about it. So things about the characters and the dynamics and how they were. I'm definitely going to get into that a lot more in the spoilers. I have a lot of spoilers for this book, a lot of spoiler comments, so I'm going to really make this video more about that. But I would say that I recommend it. The one other thing that I really did think was fun about this was it was really laugh out loud. I laughed out loud a lot from a lot of the just commentary, the dialogue. It was really fun in that regard. So, and I know just from other reviews, a lot of people enjoyed that as well. So I think just generally it was a pretty good comedy in that sense. But yeah, I would recommend it, and I am going to get into spoilers, and I'm excited to hear your guys' feedback if you also have read this and have any thoughts. So anyway, thank you for listening, and yeah, come back and listen more after you've read the book. I want to hear your comments. So anyway, here we go. I'm going to get into the things that I disliked first a little bit, and then I'm going to talk about the things that I liked. I just figured I'd split it up that way. So I wanted to start off, I felt like the tension between Ethan and Olive was not super convincing. I don't know if that's just because I felt like at the beginning their cancers, oh my gosh, their characters were, their characters were pretty one-dimensional. I felt like Ethan was pretty one-dimensional and didn't have that much depth as a character. So I had trouble feeling the tension between them and understanding why they really didn't get along. And I don't know. I also just felt like eventually, as things did build up, I felt like their chemistry wasn't that strong. Like, yeah, they did have good banter and like that was fun, but I felt like more emotionally their chemistry wasn't super there. So that was hard for me as a reader. I mean, it was still fun to read, and I liked the development, and it was, I still like was into it and excited to read, but I felt like it could have been stronger. I also felt a little bit weird about Sophie. I felt like she just herself as a character was an interesting add-in. I didn't love it for a few reasons, but one thing specifically about her, she just wasn't that convincing as a character. Like, the reasons that I felt like Ethan would have liked her weren't there, and when they tried to explain it, it just didn't seem that valid. So I don't know, I struggled with that one a little bit because I just felt like the pull factor wasn't there for why Ethan liked her. Anyway, I'm gonna get a little bit into Ethan as a character because he's probably the person I had the most frustration with, because we were supposed to like him, I guess, as readers, and I didn't find myself liking him as much as I definitely feel like I should have as the main, male romantic lead. But anyway, so like I said, I already felt like he was pretty one-dimensional, but I just felt like he wasn't likable. Like, he was kind of an ass. He was pretty mean to Olive at times, and although he did apologize also at times, I just felt like, I don't know, he was really rude, kind of mansplaining on multiple occasions, making really accusatory comments toward Olive. Just not cool. And then the whole like Sophie dinner scene just set me off. Like, I don't know, it just totally didn't sit right with me. It was right after he had sex with Olive, and then he sees that Sophie is there, and he's like kind of gloating in the fact that Sophie's jealous with Olive there, and he's enjoying that and embracing that, and it's just really and you can like tell Olive is uncomfortable, and he's just like totally missing that and just kind of being really shallow and sleazy, in my opinion, the way he handled it. And then when Olive called him out on it later, he didn't even really deny it. He was just like, oh, shoot, yeah, I guess that wasn't that cool. And like, but he totally, like, it's clear that that is how he was feeling in that time. And I don't know, it just made me feel like Olive felt like she was being used. And that's how I felt as a reader. So that was just kind of tough. Anyway, the big daddy issue that I had with this book was the gaslighting. The major freaking gaslighting that was so real and not really addressed. I think that's even more so what my issue was with it, was that all this gaslighting happened from Ethan and from Amy, and I just felt like when it all got wrapped around, like, came back around and people like realized that they were wrong, they never really properly apologized or addressed it or like handled it. Like, it just didn't feel very handled, and I don't know it. Okay, so I just feel like the way Ethan was, the fact that he was the reason that he was like really pushing Olive to not talk to Amy, her sister, who she's been looking out for, who she loves, and like is always trying to do right by. He was trying to be like, no, don't say anything yet. Don't say it. Don't, like, I don't know. It just felt really wrong. And I understand like Dane is his brother, and I understand that entire dynamic, but it just didn't feel right the way Ethan was really trying to prevent Olive from addressing something that so clearly needed addressing, and like the other parties weren't going to be doing it. They didn't, Amy didn't know. And then the way Ethan just totally shot Olive down when she tried to come forward and actually talk to Ethan about the way, like, what she knew about Dane and how he was hitting on her, and like what Ethan and Olive had was entirely built on honesty, and the fact that Ethan was so quick to accuse her of lying and being like, you just want what Amy has, and you're such a pessimist, and you're just like doing this because you're not doing well, and like you're just handling it this way, which is not cool. Like, it was just so wrong of him to so quickly accuse her and then like call her out and say that she's lying, when he at the beginning of the book said like, oh, you're such a bad liar, like I know like you don't do that. And it just basically took validity away from almost everything that, not everything, but like a lot of what he had said earlier in the book. So it just was really harsh and difficult. And then I feel like eventually when it came back around, he never really hardcore apologized for it. Like, he kind of just like, yeah, shoot, I shouldn't have done that. That was wrong of me. Like, call me, like it just didn't really even say sorry. And Olive even comments on that. And then also, like, the way Amy was, said some really insanely hurtful stuff to Olive as her sister. And just so much that had built up, and Olive was like, have you been feeling like this always? Like, and you're just choosing to say this now? Like, that's really tough. And I felt like Amy also didn't really apologize very well or just properly address the issue, like what had happened. So that was, I don't know. I struggled because I felt like the things that were said were really extreme, and like, in order to forgive somebody for that, like, a lot needs to be addressed, and I don't know, handled about it, and I just felt like I wasn't, and I just felt like at times Olive like wasn't having a backbone. I was like, girl, these people just like shit on you and walked all over you, and you're like very quick to take Amy back as soon as Amy's willing to talk to her. So I was just like, okay, guess we're just gonna disregard all of what Amy said to you and how that was really messed up. And then Ethan, she was like totally fine with it. As soon as he did a grand gesture, she was like, he's grand gesturing me. And don't get me wrong, like that was really cute and sweet. And of course, I'm like, I did eat it up as a reader, but I was also like, I feel like this still wasn't okay though. So I don't know. I really struggled with that. I think maybe some people didn't struggle with it as much, and some people, same as me, were like, ooh, no, that wasn't okay. But I just felt like it was even during that time that Olive was doing best. Like she was seeing that she was like, I don't need this. I'm actually happier. I'm healthier. I'm feeling better about myself and what I want in life. And I was like, and guess who the people you don't have are, like they're not even there. So just focus on yourself. So that was tough for me. So the message is that in that regard, I felt like the book wasn't sending the best message that like, oh yeah, people can walk all over you and they can barely apologize and then we can just move on with our lives and get back together with them. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to get too deep into it, but yeah, that was my issue. A big issue was the gaslighting and anyway, I just felt like Olive deserved better. That's pretty much all I just mean by that. But I'm going to get into what I liked about this book because there were quite a few things I liked, and I just want to point those out too that I think are pretty obvious, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But like I already said, I thought that this book was really funny. I found myself laughing out loud a ton of times. Like just one example was the Elmo during the massage scene when Olive looks to Ethan and they have like those names for each other. They just like always mess up their names intentionally. And she's like, get in the sheets, Elmo, get in the bed, Elmo, or something. I don't know, for whatever reason, I like cackled at that. And then also like the boat bathroom scene, hysterical. I thought that was really cool. And I also just want to point out, I thought that this really was just going to be the honeymoon. Like when going into the book, I thought the entire book was going to be the honeymoon. So I thought it was cool that it went past that and it turned into like, how does the family feel about their new relationship and what turns into that? So I thought that provided a lot more opportunity for character development and growth and dynamics to evolve. So I thought that was really cool. I was really happy to see that. Another line that I really liked in this book, I quoted it here. I said, Olive said this. She said, I can appreciate my body in a bikini and still want to set fire to the patriarchy. And I was like, damn right, girl. You do that thing. Like, go for it. Stand tall. I thought that was really dope. I also pointed out that I really liked how the authors emphasized the importance of family, especially in times of hardship. Thought that was really cool. Like, it really was apparent how much Olive needed her family in all directions, and they were totally there for her, and how much of an impact that actually made for her during her growth and her finding herself and figuring out what was right for her. I was a little bit bummed that I felt like Olive was the only one that I really saw a lot of personal growth with, but I did see that, and I did want to point that out, how much I embraced that and how much I thought that was awesome, because she basically was learning to love herself and really like even more and figuring out what she wanted and what she cared about. So I thought that was really cool. And then I also just wanted to, this is actually from a little bit earlier in the book, but I wanted to point out that I thought that it was cool that Olive was sort of the one, at least in the beginning on the honeymoon, she was the one making the moves in a sense, to some degree toward Ethan, which I liked that because I thought that was kind of different. You don't always get that with a book. I feel like a lot of times the male character is the one like pursuing, and I felt like in this case Olive was toward Ethan, and I thought that was, I think it's nice to have some variety, so I enjoyed that. And then I just want to put this here. The massage scene was really great. It was fun. It gave me butterflies. It was super hot, super sweet. It was a good one, and they definitely could have done more with it. But I know that this book, like I said, was kind of more tame, low spice. So it was like PG for a book, I would say, for a romance book. Definitely PG, but it was still a lot of fun. So I had a lot of fun with this one. I think, like I said, the gaslighting was the big thing that threw me off because it wasn't handled well, in my opinion. But aside from that, I'd say it was still pretty quality, and I liked how fast-paced it was. So I never felt like I was like, I don't think I ever really felt that it was dragging. That's not ever something I don't think that I felt in this book, which is really big because I feel like I easily fall into that. I'm easily like, oh, it's dragging, I'm not having a good time. But that wasn't what happened here. So yeah, I'd still recommend it. It was still a lot of fun. And I stand by the 3.5, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a really bad book. There were just a few things that were like, ugh, but it was still a great story, and I think the character development was really fun, and being able to laugh out loud from a book is awesome, so I really enjoyed that too. But anyway, thank you for listening, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts too, so please comment and let me know what you think. But yeah, a quality book. Thanks for listening.